Hey, party people. There are approximately 8.3 billion people on Earth as of 2026. The global average life expectancy is about 73.8 years. In the most developed and progressive countries in the world, average life expectancy can reach up to 83 to 85 years. On the other hand, underdeveloped regions can have average life expectancies as low as 54 years. Compared to the lowest life expectancy, I've lived barely a third of that time. Compared to the global average, I've lived merely a fourth of it. I've turned 18 this past year and I'm still incredibly inexperienced with life. Regardless, I want to share some things I've learned over the years I've been alive with you. I admit that I've not had the most comprehensive life. I still have an immeasurable number of lessons to learn, but despite that, I would like to share some things I've learned in my short time of living with you. So, here are some lessons that took 18 years to learn. Lesson 1. Live with purpose, not with pressure. There are countless actions a person can take throughout their life. Whether it's regarding their career, relationships, or their passions, it's very common to feel overwhelmed. There are so many activities and avenues to invest oneself in that at times it becomes impossible to decide. Personally, to avoid feeling overwhelmed, I fell into the habit of simply following what everyone else was doing and what they said was the correct thing to prioritize. Alternatively, at times when I was overwhelmed, I pushed many important people out of my life and adamantly kept to myself. Before I continue, let me establish that experiencing these obstacles and emotions is natural, debatably inevitable. Regardless, it's unpleasant, and I have resolved to the following two-step solution. Listen to your head and follow your heart. Step 1. Listen to your head. When considering investing your time in an activity, a common piece of advice is to weigh the advantages and drawbacks, grasp a firm understanding of the consequences, limitations, implications, etc., before making any conclusive decision. I do condone that message, but I implored myself to consider a more meta approach. In this piece of advice, do not only consider the nature of the action itself, but also what it took to achieve it. This is supposed to be the logical side of the two-step procedure, but bear with me for the following example. I am currently learning Tagalog. Tagalog is the national language of the Philippines, and crucially, is a language my parents, family, friends, and relatives use. That being said, they're fluent in English, and growing up, I never really learned Tagalog as a result. It was only up until 2 months ago when I made the conscious decision to learn it have I been improving in my understanding of it. Considering the advantages and disadvantages of learning Tagalog, it doesn't actually make that much sense for me to learn it. I should be trying to learn Mandarin or Spanish instead because many Filipinos are fluent in English and Tagalog itself is not a popular language. But rather than only focusing on the advantage of speaking the language itself, the process of learning it is much more powerful in and of itself. Yes, speaking and understanding the language is fulfilling, but the confidence and resolve it gives me to connect more deeply with my parents, relatives, and family friends are much stronger. Furthermore, freeing myself from my pride and admitting when I do not understand has made me grow as a person. I've become increasingly confident in the language, and in the process, I've become more connected to my relatives. Not only does knowing the language allow me to communicate with others, but it also makes me feel more comfortable saying that I am Filipino and embracing the ethnic side of my identity. I admit that was a personal example for the logical side of the two-step solution. Still, the underlying principle I incorporate into my life is to not only consider the benefits of the achievement, but also the process, which is central to my quest to learn Tagalog. Let's continue. Step 2. Follow your heart. The advice to follow your heart when making a decision has become so ubiquitous that its meaning has been lost. This doesn't only pertain to the phrase itself. Similar phrases such as do what feels right and do what makes you happy has become so common that it's difficult to take them to heart, at least in my experience. Admittedly, I share the same sentiment as those statements. Still though, I use a slightly different framework and paradigm to assess how I feel about participating in activities and making decisions. In my experience, the heart never stays far from what it truly loves. For example, as I've spoken a lot on the podcast in season 1, I participated in visual and performing arts, and very often at that. Since entering college, I haven't continued with any, and it took me a while to realize, but I truly love performing. I only realized that after I stopped doing it, and it made me feel miserable, like a part of me was missing. So, to get out of that rut, I reflected on whether the actions and activities I've committed to now are truly making me happy, the way that visual and performing arts did. Furthermore, I reflected upon how I can incorporate visual and performing arts into my life so I'm not so miserable without them. I often have to remind myself not to overcommit to whatever decision or activity I'm participating in. If something is making me truly miserable, it's important to recognize that I could always resign. Obviously, resignations should be done with maturity and tact, but being more critical about the types of activities I participate in has made me substantially more stable and happy. Lesson 2. There's a lot of time. Use it. Similar to feeling overwhelmed by the number of routes a person could take in their life, it's also common to feel overwhelmed about how little time we have to do everything. In other words, it's very common to be bogged down by deadlines and become disheartened when many things divide our time and pile on top of each other. Let me say right now that this is false. Mostly. Kinda. Sorta. Let me clarify. The reality is yes, plenty of deadlines can and will occur at the same time. Oftentimes in school and sometimes in work, the reality is that it's simply sensible for assignments to be due around holidays, vacations/breaks, weekends, etc. Rather than stressing over hypothetical looming deadlines, let's rewind and brainstorm about time management. When was the last time you gave your 100% focus and attention to something productive? Locked in, flow state, no distractions, the whole 9 yards. Now, try to recall if you've ever sustained that flow state for at least an hour. I'm not going to delve into flow state into this video. The general understanding of the term is perfect for this hypothetical. There have been many times where I've accessed flow state, but for an hour, I don't know about that one. That said, when I imagine how powerful an hour in flow state could be, it's hard to overestimate what I can accomplish during that time. So, what's preventing locking in for an hour? The central problem is something I like to call mental unclarity. We are at a point where distractions are so common that it's difficult to focus for even 20 minutes without checking our phone. I don't want to say, just get off your phone, bro, because that's a no duh type of solution. Reducing screen time and expanding attention span doesn't happen all of a sudden. Rome wasn't built in a day. Likewise, becoming more focused is a matter of consistent and continuous improvement in decision making. 1% better each day is more than enough to transform productivity. For example, I've been taking walks in my neighborhood without bringing my phone. Maniac, I know. Expanding upon the mental unclarity idea, I often get disheartened when facing the sheer number of assignments I must complete. Often, the number is so daunting that I don't even want to begin, and I block it out of my mind until I really have to address it. In other words, I procrastinate and commonly produce sloppy work as a result. I realize now that there is no shortcut to productivity. Stacking and ordering actions by priority just wastes time. So I've been employing a new strategy. Just start. Don't take more than 5 minutes deciding where to begin. Just find whatever I feel like getting out of the way first and do it. Is it that simple? No, obviously not. But it is a solid foundation that I have been using to finally get around to the projects I've been procrastinating on, such as this channel. Finally, I'm the biggest advocate for addressing problems with a clear mind. If there's really something on my mind that's distracting me from completing my work, even without having access to my phone or any other external distractors, then I always feel that it's better to address whatever's giving me mental unclarity first and get around to the work that I have to complete later with a clearer mind. If something is distracting me, I'm only prolonging what's bothering me, and it doesn't produce great work on the assignment that I'm trying to persist through. Truthfully, there's a wide range of what this distractor could be, and I'm not going to give any examples, but in my experience, taking some time to reflect on whatever's bothering me always helps, and it's enough to get it out of my mind so I can focus on my assignments. As long as I feel fulfilled in my own mind, then I could get around to whatever I have to do next with a clear mind. Whenever I apply these principles, work seems to complete itself, and in significantly less time than I expected it to. 24 hours in a day is a long time, so use it. Lesson 3. It's okay not to know, but it's not okay not to believe in yourself. I'm sure you have heard motivational phrases such as try new things, meet new people, push outside of your comfort zone, do it scared, etc. I wholeheartedly condone these messages, but I want to share my experiences with these phrases throughout my life. Since I was little, I've been a very envious person. I would be jealous of the kids who played sports, ran faster, kicked harder, smarter, taller, anything. Not to mention that my only sibling was my brother, who was 4 years older than me and was more advanced in every way. In comparison, I felt unremarkable, forgettable, invisible. When I was younger, I couldn't understand that I was still growing, and it's natural to be different. Eventually, all I saw were my flaws and shortcomings. As a result, I was extremely self-conscious and often kept to myself, coping by watching anime and YouTube all day. I grew up very socially inept and awkward. In 7th grade, I had had enough and decided that I never wanted to feel so self-conscious and depressed ever again. I pushed myself in every way, and whenever I felt anxious about trying new things, I would remind myself that there would be nothing more embarrassing than being that awkward, invisible boy I once was. I started exercising, studying harder, learning new skills, everything, so that my peers and I could recognize me. Once I achieved that, the recognition I was so desperately searching for, I felt lost. I was purposeless now that I have achieved my goal of being seen. I lost my reason to try new things and challenge myself, and as a result, my self-confidence plummeted. The internal motor that I had used to conquer my fear of trying new things was now gone, and I was clueless about how to find my passion. Now that I'm older, I understand that I was just a young boy, and I had a lot of physical, mental, and emotional growth ahead of me. But if I had the opportunity, I would tell myself, it's okay not to know, but it's not okay not to believe in yourself. I didn't know that everyone is different. I didn't know what my good qualities were. I didn't know when I would get out of my depression, but despite that, I should have kept my head high. Although it was a very strong internal purpose, I wish I had pushed myself to try new things to keep a smile on my face, not to escape the nights of crying. To this day, I struggle with confidence, and I'm unsure of my purpose. But regardless, I've decided to expand my horizons and challenge myself. I realize now that it's okay not to know what my purpose is and to feel scared, small, and overwhelmed, but no matter what, I must still believe in myself, that I will find it, and that I can accomplish great things and be happy for my own sake, without needing external validation. I admit it is scary to live with an unclear future and passion, but if nothing changes, nothing changes. Putting in effort may not yield a great result, but wallowing in doubt and depression will certainly result in nothing. Hey party people, it's been a long time since I posted on this channel, and I spent a lot of time focusing on other aspects of my life, which led to the lessons I've shared earlier. I want to come back to this channel as a new person, and in reflection of that, I'm going to be posting different types of content, such as this video essay. I don't want to make any empty or rash promises right now, but I'm just going to do what feels right and do my best. I really appreciate all of you for being interested in the podcast and listening to the silly thoughts in my head. Really, thank you all for being so patient with my channel and me. Please enjoy the content to come. Please subscribe, like, and share. The Talking Stage is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and more platforms. Thank you for tuning into The Talking Stage Season 2. Second Base.